Hello, it's Alec. Sorry for the months-long silence. I don't really have an explanation for it. I got a job, so yay, money. Anyway, so what this is essentially I have a few friends who apparently like being read to and find my voice calming. So I'm gonna be reading some books, part by part. This one is the first two chapters of one of my favorite book series, but it's for book one. Um, yeah, and I apologize if you hear any like rustling of like blankets in the background. Yeah, oops. Okay, enjoy. I am reading a book for to everyone called it's the Keepers Trilogy. So it's a three-book series by an author called Leanne Tanner. It's actually, if I believe that I read this right, yes, it's an Australian book, so it's an Australian book series, and I have loved this book quite a bit. All the pages have yellowed, and there's some coffee stains, and the rain has twisted the pages a bit, but I'm gonna read this. Okay, here we go. This is a mini prologue thing at the beginning of the book. The Museum of Dunt, a Hidden History. In those days, the museum had 4 keepers: Herodan, Olga Kiavolga, Sinu, and the boy Toadspit. In ordinary times, they would have been enough to keep the museum and its secrets safe, but these were not ordinary times. Trouble was coming. The signs were unmistakable. The keepers did not know where it was coming from or when it would strike, but it was clear that it would not easily be stopped. Using all his skills of concealment, Sinu set out to find a child who could be trained as an extra keeper. 6 of the children he spied on turned out to be unsuitable. The 7th, according to her official file, was disobedient and willful. She had worn the punishment change 3 times already, and the year had barely begun. This was the girl who would eventually become the 5th keeper, the girl who would change the fate of both the museum and the city. Just so you know, I am eating dinner right now, so I am, you will hear me munching every now and then. Like now, I have a steak sandwich and some fries, by the way. Homemade. Nice. This is not going to be like an audiobook, just so you're aware. It is just me eating shit at midnight and reading a book. This is fine, I need to read more. It's great. Okay. Chapter 1, Separation Day. Goldie Roth hated the punishment chains. She hated them more than anything, except perhaps for the blessed guardians. As the heavy brass cuffs snapped around her wrists and the weight of the chains fell on her shoulders, she stared sullenly at the cobblestones. She knew what would happen next. Guardian Hope would quote something at her, something stupid from the Book of the Seven. Guardian Comfort would probably quote something too, and they would both look pleased with themselves. Yes, here it came. Guardian Hope tugged on the punishment chains to make sure they were properly fastened, and then she raised one plump finger. An impatient child, she said, is an unsafe child. An unsafe child, said Guardian Comfort, folding his hands piously. Piously? I don't know that word. I've read this book about 1,000,000 times. Damn it. Folding his hands piously in front of him. Puts all other children at risk. All I did was try to hurry a little bit, thought Goldie. But she said nothing. She didn't want to get into even more trouble. Not today. Oh no. Definitely not today. She squinted out of the corner of her eye at her classmates. Jube, Plum, Glory, and Fort were looking anywhere but at Goldie, hoping that her trouble wouldn't rub off on them. Only Favor was watching, her eyes serious, her hands flicking together and twitching apart in the small, secret movements of finger talk. To the blessed guardians, it probably looked as if Favor was picking at the threads of her smock, or twisting the links of a little silver guard chain. But to Goldie the words were as clear as glass. Don't worry, not long now. Goldie tried to smile, but the weight of the punishment chain seemed to have dragged all the happiness out of her. This was supposed to be good day, she signed fiercely. Now look at me. Was that a scowl? Said Guardian Hope. Did you scowl at me, Golden? No, Guardian, mumbled Goldie. It was a scowl, colleague, said Guardian Comfort. The morning was hot already, and he had pushed his heavy black robes away from his shoulders and was mopping his forehead. I distinctly saw a scowl. Perhaps the brass chains are not punishment enough, said Guardian Hope. Let me see, what can we do that will make the lesson more memorable? Her eyes fell on the little blue enamel bird that was pinned to the front of Goldie's smock. That brooch, where did you get it? Goldie's heart sank. Ma gave it to me, she mumbled. Speak up, I can't hear you. Ma gave it to me. It belonged to my Auntie Praise. The one who disappeared years ago? Yes, Guardian. Disappeared, said Guardian Comfort, raising an eyebrow. Praise Kosh went missing, said Guardian Hope, sourly, the day after she separated. She was too bold, of course, like her niece here. Without a guard chain to protect her, she probably fell in one of the canals and drowned, or was kidnapped by slave traders and carted away to a life of misery and despair. She looked back at Goldie. This brooch is important to you and your family? Yes, Guardian, mumbled Goldie. And I suppose you think about your bold aunt when you were wearing it. Yes, I mean no, Guardian, never. I don't believe you. Your first answer was the truthful one. You should not have such a trinket. It sets a bad example. But Guardian Hope jerked at the punishment chains. Clank, 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 they went. Goldie bit off her protest. Any other day she would have argued. Whatever the consequences. But not today. Not today. Briskly, Guardian Hope unpinned the blue brooch and slipped it into the pocket of her robes. Goldie watched that hopeful little bird disappear into darkness. And now, said Guardian Hope, we must be on our way. Her mouth twisted in a sarcastic smile. We must not be late for this important ceremony, must we? The Grand Protector would be so disappointed. She set off across the plaza of the forlorn, with Goldie stumbling beside her. Clank, clank, clank. The other children tagged along behind Guardian Comfort, their guard chains attached to his leather belt. Everyone they passed stared at Goldie, then quickly looked away again, as if she was diseased. People are used to seeing children chained, of course. Every child in the city of Jewel wore a silver guard chained on their left wrist from the moment they learned to walk until their separation day. Whenever they were outside the house, the guard chain linked them to their parents or to one of the blessed guardians. At night it was fastened to the bedhead, so no one could break into the house and carry them off while their parents were sleeping. But the punishment chains were different. The punishment chains were fastened to both wrists. They were far heavier than the little silver guard chains, and they clanked shamefully so that everyone knew you had displeased the blessed guardians, which was a very dangerous thing to do. As they approached the Grand Canal, Goldie heard a dull roar ahead of them. Guardian Comfort stopped and inclined his head. What's that? Is there danger awaiting us, colleague? Guardian Hope shortened the punishment chains even further and dragged Goldie along the narrow street to the next corner. Goldie gritted her teeth and tried not to think about the blue brooch. No danger, shouted Guardian Hope. It's merely a crowd. Guardian Comfort ushered the rest of the class up to the corner, and they all stared at the throng of people walking along the boulevard that ran beside the Grand Canal. Where are they going? Said Guardian Comfort. Marks aren't open until tomorrow. I imagine they're going to the Great Hall, said Guardian Hope. She raised her voice. To witness this separation ceremony, this abomination. Several of the passerbys turned to see who had spoken. When they saw the two blessed guardians, they seemed to shrink a little, as if the mere sight of black robes and black boxy hats made them afraid. Goldie felt a spurt of anger. She hated the way the guardians made everyone act as if they were smaller than they really were. She sifted her hands so that Favor could see them. Tomorrow I go catch Brizzlehound, she signed. Hungry Brizzlehound. Put in sack, bring back to Guardian Hope. Oh, blessed guardian, here is the gift to thank you for years of tender care. Please open without caution. Favour's face remained blank, but her eyes laughed. Won't work, she signed. Brizzlehound die of fright when see Guardian Hope's ugly mug. I don't know what the Grand Protector can be thinking of, muttered Guardian Comfort, peering at the crowd. Lowering the age of separation from 16 to 12. If she had any sense, she'd raise it to 18 or to 20. The Protector is a fool. She believes that the city is safer than it used to be. She thinks it's time for a change, said Guardian Hope. She and Guardian Comfort looked at each other and snorted rudely. Then they stepped forward into the crowd, dragging the children with them. People quickly made way for them, and before long they were walking in a large space, as if it was as if, thought Goldie, there was an invisible line drawn around them that no one wanted to cross. Look at them, hissed Guardian Hope. They avoid us as if we were dogs. They don't know how lucky they are to having us to protect their children. Perhaps we should remind them, colleague. Guardian Hope nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps we should, she raised her voice. It must be obvious to any thinking person, colleague, that the Protector is making a serious mistake in lowering the age of separation. Do you not think so? I do, colleague. A very serious mistake. Jewel is as dangerous now as it ever was. It is only the vigilance of the blessed guardians that keeps the children safe. Take away that vigilance and we go straight back to the bad old days. Has everyone forgotten about how terrible those days were? Have they forgotten about the drownings, the diseases? Purple fever, said Guardian Comfort, shivering dramatically. Suppurating heart scab, plague. I can just imagine Guardian Comfort going, plague! And then, fake fainting. Dude, Guardian Comfort's such a dramatic bitch. People within earshot looked at each other uneasily. Had they forgotten the slave traders? Said Guardian Hope. Have you forgotten your brooch? Whispered a little voice in the back of Goldie's mind. Goldie's eyes widened. All her life she had heard this voice, like a whisper from somewhere deep inside her. Sometimes it got her into trouble. Sometimes it got her out again. She had never told anyone about it, not even Ma and Pa, not even Favour. She's not going to give it back, whispered the voice. And you might never get this close to her again. Goldie glanced down to her right hand, to where her right hand was pressed against Guardian Hope's robes. She thought, mentally shaking her head. This was definitely one of those getting into trouble times. Imagine the fuss if Guardian Hope found the brooch gone. She'll think she lost it, whispered the little voice. And besides, it's Separation Day. Separation Day! The day when Goldie's silver guard chain would be removed forever. From now on, she would be allowed to walk the streets by herself without being tied to one of the blessed guardians. It was like the beginning of a new life. Maybe the little voice was right. Guardian Comfort leaned towards Guardian Hope. I am reliably informed, he said in a loud voice, that the slave traders' ships lie just over the horizon, waiting for us to lower our guard. Nutkin Gull, Old Lady Skint, the infamous Captain Roop. What can a 12-year-old do against such monsters? Tell me that. A man on the edge of the invisible circle muttered, The 7 gods protect us, and flicked his fingers anxiously. Goldie flicked her fingers too, just in case. The 7 gods of Jewel were not kindly deities. They were violent and unpredictable, except for Bald Thoke, whose main problem was a strange sense of humour. Worshipping them was a tricky business. You couldn't ignore them because gods don't like to be ignored, but calling on them for help was risky. If they were in the wrong sort of mood, they may as well rain down balls of fire when what you had actually asked for was warm weather for ripening the mangoes. So like most people, Goldie called on them in times of trouble, but at the same time she flicked her fingers, which meant, don't worry about me, please go and help someone else. She certainly did not want Great Wooden and his immortal companions taking an interest in her now. She didn't want anyone else watching her either. Luckily, everyone in the slow-moving crowd was staring straight ahead, trying to make themselves small and unimportant so the blessed guardians wouldn't pick on them for anything. No one was watching her. Goldie thought of the little blue bird, lost in the darkness of Guardian Hope's robes. She thought of Auntie Praise, bold Auntie Praise. She drew in a deep breath. She pushed the cuff of her punishment change as high as it would go up her arm so that it would not clank or get in the way, and she slipped her hand into Guardian Hope's pocket. She had always been good at moving quietly. Now she felt her way through the darkness as silently as a falling leaf. The treacherous chains remained quiet. Guardian Hope strode beside her, scowling. Goldie's fingers touched the outstretched wings, and suddenly she had the feeling that someone was watching her. Her hand froze, still in the pocket of the black robe. As innocently as she could, she looked around. She couldn't see anyone watching. It was just an ordinary frightened crowd, except for one particular spot that her eyes seemed to slide across. "Look harder," whispered the little voice in the back of her mind. Goldie looked harder. She saw a flicker of black that didn't seem to belong to any of the people around it. For some reason it was hard to fix her eyes on. The light sort of slipped past it, as if it was too unimportant to worry about. "Look harder." And then Goldie saw him. A tall, thin man wearing an old-fashioned black coatee with sleeves too short for his long arms, so that his wrists stuck out at awkward angles. He was keeping pace with a little group of children guardians and was staring straight at her. When he saw her staring back at him, his face went blank with surprise. He ducked behind another man and disappeared into the crowd. The strength came back into Goldie's fingers. She closed them around the little blue bird and eased it out of Guardian Hope's robe. Its wings seemed to flutter in her hand as if thanking her for its freedom. Despite the weight of the punishment chains, a wave of excitement welled up inside Goldie. It was separation day. An hour from now, she too would be free. Okay. That was chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Grand Protector. Guardian Hope kept Goldie in punishment chains until they were right outside the Great Hall. When at last she unlocked them, Goldie sighed with relief. "Now there's just my guard chain, and soon that'll be gone too." Ma and Pa were waiting inside the hall with the other parents. "I have to scratch my eye, and I can't read when I'm doing that because I don't have my eye available." Guardian Hope and Guardian Comfort unsnapped their guard chains from their belts and silently handed the children over. The parents fastened the guard chains to their own belts as they walked towards the stage. Ma murmured in Goldie's ear, "Is it true, sweeting? Did you have you in punishment chains on your separation day? Oh, I can hardly believe it. She has no feelings." "Shh," whispered Pa. "You know what sharp ears they have." Now that they were away from the blessed guardians, Goldie's classmates were behaving more like themselves. Behind Goldie, Harrow Oster growled, "Don't leap around, Jubilation. You nearly pulled me off my feet." "Sorry, Pa," sang Jube, not sounding the least bit sorry. "I expect you'll be pleased to have him separated," said Favor's Pa, Harrowberg, who had a slight stammer. "It's a trial, is it not, when they reach this age?" "I don't know how I'd stand another 4 years of it," said Harrow Oster, a little too loudly to be convincing. "I'm all bruises from his flying arms and legs. Blessings upon the Protector for lowering the age of separation. Indeed." Jesus, I did not breathe there. "Indeed, blessings, blessings," murmured the other parents, but their faces were pale, and Goldie thought they looked as if they hadn't slept very well. They lined up at the foot of the stage and waited for the official white smith to come and remove the children's silver cuffs. The hall was filled with onlookers. In the front row, a dozen gazetteers were already making notes for tomorrow's gazettes. Ma patted Goldie on the arm. "Now you're not to be frightened, sweeting." "I'm not," said Goldie. "Of course you're not," said Ma quickly. She hesitated. "But when you're separated, you will watch out for slave traders, won't you?" Froberg leaned towards them. "And poisonous insects?" "Runaway street rigs," said Pa. "Sharp knives," said Fro Oster. Goldie heard a faint whump somewhere in the distance. She looked around. No one else seemed to have noticed it. "Marauding birds," said Harrow Oster. "Mad dogs, any dogs at all." "Dirty water," stammered Harrowberg. "Filthy water, disease-ridden, child-drowning water. That's the one that worries me. And getting lost. Whatever you do, don't get lost. Goldie had heard these warnings 100, no, 1,000 times before. She ducked her head and grinned at Favor, but her friend was nodding seriously at the familiar list. "That reminds me," said Ma. She took a small parcel from her pocket. "We brought you a little something, sweeting, to celebrate." It was a compass, of course. The traditional Separation Day present was always either a compass, so you could find your way home again if you were lost, or a whistle to call for help if you were attacked by slavers. Golfie made surprised, pleased noises when she saw the compass, but secretly she had wished that she had been given a folding knife so she could fight her way out of trouble, or a spyglass for looking at far-off places and dreaming of the day when she'd be old enough to leave the city of Jewel and its blessed guardians far, far behind. 20 minutes later, Goldie and her friends stood on the enormous stage, along with 100 other children and their parents. This was to be the biggest separation day in living memory. Every child in Jewel between the ages of 12 and 16 was about to be given their freedom. Goldie's cuff and guard chain were already gone, and she was tied to Ma by nothing but a white silk ribbon. Her left arm felt hot and strange. Her body buzzed with nervous impatience as the protector walked up to the podium. The Grand Protector of Jewel wasn't really very grand. She wore crimson robes and a gold chain, but she was only a little bit taller than Goldie's Ma, and her hair was the color of straw. Above her head the glass dome of the great hall was awash with lights. Clockwork birds whizzed from pillar to pillar on silver wires. Clockwork butterflies opened and closed their wings. The protector pushed her glasses up onto her nose and faced the audience. "There was a time," she said loudly, "when there was no such place as the city of Jewel. Instead, there was a nasty little seaport called Dunt, stuck on the south coast of the Faroon Peninsula like a pustulous wart on an old man's chin, and a pustulous wart of a place it was too, full of disease and danger." Goldie heard a rustling in the audience as everyone settled in to listen to the well-known story. But for once, the protector didn't remind them of how their ancestors had come here from Mern to establish a colony. She didn't tell them about the native wars and the beast wars and the wars of independence and the floods and the murders and famines and the year of despair when children died like flies. She didn't tell them about the heroic struggle of a few people to save the remaining children and how those people became the first blessed guardians. Instead, she smiled and said, but that was a long time ago. For more than 200 years, the city has been progressively cleansed of its dangers. The canals have been fenced, vacant blocks built upon, the animals and birds have been driven away. Vile Dunt has become beautiful Jewel. We no longer need to be so vigilant. Many people were nodding, but Goldie could see some who obviously didn't agree. In the second row of the audience, Guardian Hope's face was dark with anger. "These children behind me," said the protector, are about to take us into a glorious future." She paused. Goldie glanced at her classmates. Favor was chewing her fingernails. Fort was smiling, but there was something fixed about his smile, as if he had put it there earlier and forgotten about it. Plum and Glory were white-faced with nerves, and Jube was jiggling from one leg to the other. Goldie heard Hero Oster hiss, "In the name of the 7 jubilation, can't you be still for 5 more minutes?" The audience laughed nervously. The protector smiled again. "His Honor oh my god, I can never pronounce this. His Honor the Fugleman." His Honor the Fugleman? I think it's the Fugleman. "His Honor the Fugleman will now deliver the blessing." There was a silence in the hall. No one moved. "Where's the Fugleman?" Goldie whispered to Ma. As if in answer, there was a shuffling in the audience. Make way, cried Guardian Hope, and he stepped up onto the stage, making great business of patting her... Guardian Hope is a woman. Brain no work. She stepped up onto the stage, making a great business of patting her robes into smooth folds and straightening her hat. The protector peered at her over the top of her glasses. "Is this a change of plan? No one informed me of it. Where is your leader?" "Your Grace," said Guardian Hope, "His Honor should be here, but it seems he has been delayed. Perhaps we should also delay the separation?" "I may eat my chippy. I need to eat. Nom nom nom. I love the chippy. Nom 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 nom." So not crunchy chippies, it's more like mashed potato. But it's still good. Your Grace, said Guardian Hope. His Honour should be here, but it seems to have been delayed. Perhaps we should also delay the separation. Goldie's heart lurched, but the Protector said mildly, If the Fugleman is not here, Guardian, I'm sure you can administer the blessing. Oh no, that would be now, Guardian, said the Protector, in a voice that was no longer mild. Guardian Hope fussed some more with her hat and then scowled at the long rows of children. Do you swear to remain vigilant and not endanger yourself or others, she muttered, even when you are no longer under the care of the blessed guardians? Goldie's mouth was suddenly dry. She answered in chorus with 100 other voices. I swear. Do you swear to honor the 7 gods and their plans for you, as revealed through the blessed guardians? I swear. Do you swear to avoid blasphemy and condemn abomination wherever you find them? I swear. Guardian Hope hesitated. Goldie clenched her fist so tightly that her nails bit into the palms of her hands. The Protector cleared her throat. Continue, please. Then you shall be blessed. Despite her reluctance, Guardian Hope's voice rose in the old familiar rhythms. She named the gods one by one in order of decreasing importance, so as not to offend any of them. May great Woden never send his black ox to fetch you in the night. May the weeping lady blame someone else for her tears. May Thunderer, Dreamer, and the Locksmith forget your name. May Helper never decide you need her help, and may Bald Folk take his jokes elsewhere. I'm sorry, it's so funny to imagine just some holy woman angrily pointing away in a different direction at this poor bald man going, take your jokes elsewhere. That's really funny because he's a god. Goldie flicked her fingers as each name was spoken. Blessings upon you, thrice blessings upon you, so it is done. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, Guardian Hope stalked off the stage as if she wanted nothing more to do with the proceedings. Lieutenant Marshal, murmured the Protector. The Lieutenant Marshal of the militia had been standing to one side. Now he handed the Protector a small pair of scissors. The Protector took a piece of paper from the pocket of her robes, squinted at it, and said loudly, Goldenroth? A shiver ran through Goldie. She was to be first. She stepped forward with Ma and Pa beside her. The Grand Protector smiled, her eyes sharp and clever behind her glasses. Hold out your hand, she said. Goldie held out her hand. The white silk ribbon stretched tight. By the grace of the 7 gods, cried the Protector, in accordance with the Guardianship Act, let this child be separated. She raised the scissors. Ma gave a little squeak of protest, but said nothing. Pa squeezed Goldie's shoulder. In the audience, the gazetteers dipped their pens into the portable ink pots and began to scribble furiously. Goldie held her breath. There was a terrible thumping from the far end of the hall, where big wooden doors had been closed to keep out the summer heat. The Protector hesitated. Let me through, cried a muffled voice. Go away, thought Goldie. Don't interrupt. One of the militiamen guarding the doors pulled them open a little way. Hush, he said. Her Grace is just starting the separations. A man pushed past him, his black robes torn and dirty, his face streaked with blood. Disaster, he cried. Murder! The children! And he fell to the floor in a dramatic faint. And that's the end of chapter 2. Yay! Some guy just said, hey, yo, a murder's happened and the children are fucking dead. Yikes. Alright. Yeah, I hope you liked it. This is one of my favorite book series. And listen to this in parts or when it's all out, I guess. Good night. Kisses.